another video from RJP Infotek on vSphere FT, that is fault tolerance. What is FT? Think of like this. You are watching a live cricket match on TV. Suddenly your main TV breaks down. But luckily there is another exact same TV in the next room already showing the same match without any delay. So you just walk into that room and keep watching without missing a single ball. That's what vSphere FT does for virtual machine. When you run an important virtual machine on one physical server, that is EXXI host, FT makes an identical twin copy of that virtual machine in another EXXI host. The original VM for which you enable FT is known as primary virtual machine, and the twin copy of that VM is known as secondary virtual machine. Both are running at the same time, not just a backup file but actual live running copy. If the first server crashes, the second one immediately takes over by marking secondary virtual machine as primary virtual machine. No reboot, no downtime, no data loss. That is zero downtime, zero data loss, no loss of TCP connection. If we have third EXXI host, then FT creates a new secondary virtual machine on that host. To maintain identical state in the secondary virtual machine in every single moment, FT uses fast checkpointing in the background. Now let's understand what is this fast checkpointing. Imagine this scenario. You are typing a document in your laptop. You have another laptop near to you. Every time you type a letter on your first laptop, that exact same letter instantly appear on the second laptop. How? Because there is a person sitting near to you copying your every keystroke instantly. This instant copying is fast checkpointing in vSphere FT. In vSphere FT terms, primary virtual machine runs on host A, secondary virtual machine runs on host B. Fast checkpointing is the technology that sends all CPU, memory and disk changes from primary virtual machine to secondary virtual machine many times per second, that is in frequent checkpoints. Hence the name fast checkpointing. These checkpoint changes are sent over a dedicated high speed, often 10 Gbps VM kernel port referred to as the fault tolerance logging network to the secondary VM. This ensures that the state of secondary VM is constantly mirroring the primary VM, maintaining the exact replica. There are three prerequisites for fault tolerance. First one is the VM folder with files must be in a common data store which all EXXI hosts can access. Second prerequisite is HA, that is high availability, must be enabled in the cluster. And third prerequisite is vMotion and fault tolerance logging services must be enabled in all EXXI hosts. It is highly recommended to have a dedicated VM kernel NIC on each host for FT logging network. Step 1 is Step 1 is check all prerequisites are configured or not. That is, a VM folder is in a common data store, HA is enabled in the cluster, vMotion and fault tolerance logging services are enabled in the VM kernel ports of each host. Step 2 is, if any of the above prerequisite is not configured, then configure that. Step 3, enable FT for the specific virtual machine and observe for secondary VM. Step 4, shut down first host and observe secondary virtual machine becomes primary VM and a new secondary VM in the third host. And finally, observe other options available in FT. Observe here, we have one cluster with 3 EXXI hosts and one virtual machine running in EXXI 1 host. Now suppose due to some hardware component issue, if EXXI 1 host is down, then what will happen to this virtual machine which is running in this ESXi host? This virtual machine will also be down and user cannot access this virtual machine. Is there any way to come out of this type of situation? Yes, we can use a vSphere HA, that is high availability, and a vSphere FT, that is fault tolerance features to avoid this type of unplanned outage. While vSphere HA provides a base level of protection for your virtual machines by restarting virtual machines in the event of an ESXi host failure, vSphere fault tolerance provides a higher level of availability, allowing users to protect any virtual machine from a host failure with no loss of data, transaction, or connections. Okay, we are going to implement a vSphere FT for this Windows virtual machine. To implement FT, there are 3 prerequisites. Okay, so what are all 3 prerequisites? First one is the VM folder with files must be in a common data store which all EXXi hosts can access. Second prerequisite is HA must be enabled in the cluster. And third prerequisite is vMotion and fault tolerance logging services must be enabled in all ESXi hosts. Okay, it is highly recommended to have separate network for fault tolerance traffics. Now let's see whether we have these 3 prerequisites already configured in our cluster and ESXi host, or we need to configure. Okay, now if you see this Windows virtual machine summary page and scroll down, you can see here this virtual machine files are available in this data store NAS, that is the hard disk. Okay, if you click on this, then you can see this data store and click on files. Here you can find out this Windows virtual machine folder and inside this folder we have related files, that is virtual machine files. Okay, and this data store is accessible by all these three EXXI hosts, which are all available in our cluster: EXXI 1, EXXI 1001 and EXXI 1002, right? So this Windows virtual machine files any of these EXXI host can access. That is first prerequisite we ensure. Okay, second prerequisite is HA must be enabled in the cluster. Okay, whether HA is enabled or not, if we want to check, click on cluster, then configure. Here vSphere availability. So here you can see vSphere HA is turned on. That means HA also configured and it is in on condition, running condition. Okay, so second prerequisite also configured. Now third one is for each EXXI host, FT logging and vMotion services should be enabled. Okay, so to check that, click on one EXXI host, then configure and go to VM kernel adapters. So here you can see only one kernel adapter, that is VMK0, is present now for first EXXI host. And if you expand this, here you can find out what are all services enabled in this VM kernel adapter. So we have vMotion service and management service. These two services are enabled in VMK0, that is VM kernel port of first EXXI host. Okay, similarly if you check second EXXI host, here also vMotion service is enabled. Third ESXi host, here also vMotion service is enabled. Okay, but FT logging service is not enabled in any of this ESXi host. Okay, so now we need to enable FT logging service in each ESXi host. So for that, select first EXXI host. Okay, then as we said, it is advisable to have separate network address for fault tolerance traffics. Okay, so for that we will click, so here VM kernel adapter, then click on add networking. We want to add one new VM kernel network adapter, so select that, then click next. Select an existing network or select an existing standard switch. So select an existing standard switch. vSwitch 0, we want that FT logging should be enabled in this vSwitch 0. So we have selected that, then click next. So here network label, what if you want to change this, by default it is VM kernel. If you want to change, say VM kernel for FT, so hyphen FT, fault tolerance. Okay, then IP, all these leave default. Here these are all services available. We want to enable fault tolerance logging service, so check this box, then click next. Then we want to configure IP address manually, static IP address. So select this, use static IPv4 address, then configure IP address, say 192.168.5.1. This IP address we want to configure for that kernel port, and subnet mask is /24 prefix 255.255.288.0. Then gateway, let whatever gateway address we don't want to change, DNS, so leave like that, then click next. So this is ready to complete. See, everything is okay. Then click finish. So now you can see another kernel port VMK1 is we have added, and in this VMK1 enabled service, if you select this, here we have enabled service fault tolerance logging, right? And if we want to check in vSwitch virtual switch, select on virtual switch, and now you can see this for this virtual switch, this VM kernel -ft, this is the port group name we have configured. So if you click on this is the IP address we have configured, and this is connected to both adapter. Okay, but we need separate network for vMotion and separate network for FT. So now both networks are mapped to this kernel port. So we want VM NIC 1 should be for this kernel port, and for management traffic and vMotion also we have enabled here. So for that on VM NIC 0. Okay, so to do that, select this VM kernel FT which we have just now added. Click on this three dot. Okay, edit settings, then teaming and failover, and here then select a VM NIC 0 which is active now for this kernel port VM kernel FT. Select that, then move down. So bring that to unused adapter. Okay, then click OK. So now if you see this for this VM kernel port, we have only this VM NIC 0 NIC 1 is now available. Okay, that we ensure. So we have completed separate network configuration for first XXI host where we have enabled FT logging traffic. Similarly, go to second XXI host, click on the second XXI host. Here you can see these kernel only management network kernel port is available. There is no other kernel port. So either we can go to VM kernel adapter or here itself add networking. Okay, and we need VM kernel network adapter for FT traffic. So here you can see the VM kernel TCP/IP stack handle traffic for ESXi hosts such as vSphere, vMotion, iSCSI, NFS, FCOE, and fault tolerance traffic. Okay, so you want for fault tolerance one VM kernel network adapter. So click on next, then select an existing standard switch. We need to select vSwitch 0, then click next, and then here what is network label, so we need VM kernel FT, that we select. Then what service we need to enable, fault tolerance logging service, select that, then click next. Here we need to configure IP address, so use static IP4 address and configure 192.168.5.2 IP address, subnet mask 255 255 255.0. Okay, then I can click next, ready to complete, finish. So now you can see we have one more kernel port group available with this IP address. Okay, but again if you select this, both physical adapters are selected, so we do not want VM NIC 0, we need only VM NIC 1. So three dots, edit settings, teaming and failover, override VM NIC 0, select VM NIC 0, then move down, click OK. So now you can see only this VM NIC 1 is selected for FT traffic. Okay, now third ESXi host, virtual switch, then add networking, VM kernel network adapter, click next, select an existing standard switch, vSwitch 0, click next, fault tolerance logging service, check this box, next, then use static IP4 address, so 192.168.5.3, 255.225.2.0 is the subnet mask, and then again next, ready to complete, finish. Okay, so here this is the kernel port with IP address. Name is VM kernel. We have not given the name, so if you want to give name, here you can configure edit settings, and label you can change to VM kernel -ft or FT fault tolerance traffic. Okay, so that we can select, click OK. So now it is for fault tolerance traffic. We can by seeing this name we can find out, and if you click this, again we have both physical ports are available for this. So three dots, edit settings, dimming and failover, override, VM NIC 0, move down and click OK. So now you can see only this VM NIC 1 is available for fault tolerance traffic. Okay, so three prerequisite we have configured. Okay, so now we need to enable FT for this virtual machine. Okay, so when you select this virtual machine, you can see for this virtual machine in summary page, only if you move your mouse pointer, then it is protected by vSphere HA. You can see here it is protected by vSphere HA, EVC, VMware EVC is enabled, and this is for Windows operating system, so Windows symbol. Okay, these three only we are getting here. And if you come down further, scroll down, here you can see now it is running in host esxi1.rjvmr.com. So this virtual machine is running in esxi1 host, that we can find out. And further if you scroll down, HA, vSphere HA protection, it is protected by vSphere HA high availability, but it is not showing anything related to FT fault tolerance. Okay, in summary page, so observe that, right? Now in this, imagine user is accessing this virtual machine, Windows VM1 user is accessing, and some application here, this ping command is going on. So now if you see, I just use the command ping google.com-t. So I want to continuously ping, so that is going on, and task manager, another application is running. So these two application, imagine like that, these two applications are running in this Windows virtual machine, and user is accessing this Windows machine. Okay, so now minimize. Okay, so now we want to enable FT and see if this ESXi1 is down, then what will happen to this virtual machine. That is what we want to observe. Okay, so to enable FT for this virtual machine, select this virtual machine, click on action, then fault tolerance, turn on fault tolerance. Okay, so click this. Now when you enable fault tolerance, it will create another secondary VM, secondary virtual machine. So that secondary virtual machine related files you want to store in which data store, that we need to select here. Okay, this is for secondary VM. Automatically that will be created by FT. Now if I select the same data store NAS, and if I select this, then you see here compatibility check succeeded. Okay, I have selected data store NAS. Okay, if I click on next, then it is asking which EXXI host this secondary VM should run. And observe here we have three EXXI hosts. It is showing EXXI 101 and EXXI 102. It is not showing EXXI 1 because they are in EXXI 1. Windows virtual machine is currently running. That will be primary VM. Okay, so it is regarding secondary VM. Okay, like a clone or duplicate virtual machine or fault tolerance. Okay, so if we select say 1001, okay, then here you can see compatibility. There is one message, data store, that is data store NAS is being used for both primary and secondary virtual machine disk, which is not recommended. Okay, so if that storage, that is NAS storage, which we have selected here, this storage is not available, something happened to this NAS storage, then the secondary VM files are available here, will not be available because both are storing in both files, that is virtual machine files, we are storing in same data store. Okay, so to avoid this, it is recommended, if primary VM files are available in one data store, secondary VM files you should store in another data store. Okay, so for that, now we are selecting data store for secondary VM. So that secondary VM data store we should store in another data store, that is SAN data store. Okay, right, then click next, and now select one EXXI host. Now you can see compatibility check succeeded. Okay, then click next and finish. So in now you can see there are two Windows virtual machine is showing WinVM1 and another WinVM1. Also it has FT has created, that is duplicate VM, secondary VM. Okay, so after sometimes again we can see this screen and we'll observe only one primary VM name will be available. This will not be available. It is now getting this virtual secondary virtual machine ready. So in recent task you can see turn on fault tolerance, copying virtual machine configuration, so that is going on 50%. Okay, it will take some time, so let's wait for this completion of this process. FT secondary VM should be on. Okay, it will take quite some time. In the meantime, user is accessing, see user is accessing, this application is running. Here also this ping output we are getting. So user normal, how he wants to access, he is accessing, he is working with this. And in the background, FT feature we have enabled, and it has created another virtual machine. That virtual machine we have selected EXXI 101. So in this EXXI 101, this virtual machine is created. This will be secondary virtual machine. And in ESXi 1, we have one virtual machine. You can see this is in power on state. User is accessing this. This will be primary virtual machine. Okay. And now if you select this virtual machine which is in power on state and scroll down, here you can see still now FT related information we can observe here. It is not coming now. Once that is ready, we can see FT fault tolerance like vSphere HA, like that we can see vSphere FT information. Okay, so let's wait for some time. So it is going on. Let me pause this recording, and once it is getting close to 100%, again I will start recording. Okay. So now you can see this turn on fault tolerance, that task is completed. Now registering on that secondary VM. Okay, so if you minimize recent task, now you can see win hyphen VM1 within bracket primary. So this is primary VM which is running in ESXi1, okay, in this host. And if you see EXXi 101 in this EXXi host, same duplicate virtual machine is running. FT is now starting this virtual machine. It is in power off state, it is powering on, and it is a secondary VM which is in power off state. After some time we will see automatically it will be in on state. Okay, so that is what this task is going on now. Start fault tolerance secondary VM. So now it is migrating virtual machine active state, okay, which is in 24%. So now if you select this Windows virtual machine and scroll down, come down, here you can see this is in NAS data store. NAS, this virtual machine available in this NAS storage and running in ESXi1 host exxi1.rjvm.com in this ESXi host, and two storage, data store NAS and data store SAN. This data store SAN is actually for secondary virtual machine. Now it is showing here. Okay, and if you scroll down, this is your vSphere HA related information, and further down still now you can see fault tolerance. This information was not there. Now it is showing in summary page, and status is starting. Now it is starting, powering on. That fault tolerance is in starting state. After some time we can see it is available. Okay, so this recent task is going on now, 27%. Once it is ready, we can observe here fault tolerance status. And in EXXi 101, this Windows VM1 secondary which is in power off state, it will be automatically in power on state. Okay, still user is working with this, there is no problem for user. So user normally accessing this virtual machine and working with these applications. Okay, so again it will take some time to complete this. Till that time, let me pause this recording. Again, after completing this, so now you can observe here this start fault tolerance secondary VM status is completed. So now if we see minimize recent task, okay, and here you can see Windows VM1 secondary, it was powered off state, now it is in on state. Okay, and we have primary virtual machine which is already running, that is in on state. User is accessing that this primary VM, that means user is accessing this Windows machine. Okay, and for this virtual machine where we have enabled fault tolerance, there is another virtual machine is running in another ESXi host, okay, which is in secondary state. Okay, now if we select this primary summary and scroll down, here previously we had seen FT fault tolerance status is protected. Okay, and secondary VM location is EXXI 101, this EXXI host. Okay, this is the host name, EXXI host name, exxi101.rjvmr.com. So their secondary VM is running here. Primary VM, this is the primary VM, we have selected primary VM. So that primary VM is running in exxi 1.rjpvmr.1. So primary VM is running in EXXi 1, secondary VM is running in EXXi 101. Okay, and if we see the summary page, now you can see one new icon here which says protected by vSphere fault tolerance. Okay, so previously we have three icons, that is Windows icon, EVC, this is EVC is enabled, this one is HA, vSphere HA, protected by vSphere HA, and now a new icon protected by vSphere fault tolerance FT. Okay, and user as usual is accessing, you can see continuous ping response we are getting from this destination, and task manager here also CPU memory utilization is going on like this. Okay, now what we want to test, we want to observe when this EXXi1 where this primary VM is running. Okay, so EXXi1, so this virtual VM Windows VM primary, this is running in EXXi host 1. Let's shut down this machine. So I have selected EXXi1 where this Windows virtual machine is running, power, and say shut down. I am just shutting down this EXXi host machine as if it is not available, shut down. So once this is down, user is accessing this continuously. See, we are getting reply, but this machine is running in EXXi host 1. That EXXi host 1 is now not available, and here you can see Windows VM disconnected. It is showing like this. Okay, Windows VM disconnected primary, so that is down, but user is still accessing this. Now you can see this Windows VM1 which is now available, it is primary. So where is this primary now, it is where it is running. So if we scroll down and see here EXXi 101. So previously this Windows virtual machine was running in EXXi 1, which is now shut down state. We have shut it down as if it is not working. So automatically FT has made this secondary VM as a primary. So secondary VM was running in ESXi 101 host. Okay, so that becomes primary now. Secondary becomes primary, and that is in already in on condition. Same state it is maintaining. So user can access this primary virtual machine. Okay, so here it is, this remote console. We are using VMRC, so it is not showing here. If we launch once again, we can see that. Okay, machine. So user cannot feel what happened in the background, but actually in the background the virtual machine which was running in EXXi1, that is down. The secondary virtual machine which was running in another EXXi host becomes primary, and that is now user is accessing that virtual machine. It is actually separate virtual machine, but for user as if it is accessing the same machine. Okay, this is advantage of fault tolerance. And now this becomes primary. Is there any secondary VM? So now if you see in EXXi 102, automatically one fault tolerance has created another virtual machine which is secondary now. So in 102, this is secondary, this is in power off state. After some time we can see automatically this will be in power on state, and primary is running in EXXi 101, secondary will be in EXXi 102 in this EXXi host, which now it is powered off. So after some time it will be in power on state. Okay, so again it is that the process is going on to make this secondary virtual machine off. It will take some time. After some time you can see this is in on condition, secondary is on. Okay, so in ESXi 101 it is primary VM, user is accessing this, and secondary VM is running in another ESXi, that is third ESXi host in our cluster. Okay, automatically this state change, virtual machine fault tolerance state change, which we are seeing here, that also will be off automatically. It will be in the it will change to green signal. Okay, so now if you see this virtual machine summary page and scroll down, now here you can see FT fault tolerance is in starting state, because that secondary VM is not yet ready. So that's why it is showing starting. Once this secondary VM is on condition, now it is powered off. When it is on condition, then in primary VM summary page we can see secondary VM is in ESXi 102, which is in protected status, is protected state. Okay, now it is in starting state. We'll wait for some time again. Once this is ready, we can see this. Okay, so now if I power on this EXXi host, we say we have rectified the problem. This EXXi host is now working, so it will be available in our cluster. But primary VM is now in 101, secondary VM in EXXi 102 host, and this one will be available as a third EXXi host in our cluster. Okay, so I will stop this. That is, I shall pause this recording now, and once this is ready, it will take some time. Then again I will show you. Okay, running, it was running earlier, now also it is running. User is accessing this virtual machine as usual. So user is accessing in the background. Fault tolerance is maintaining this virtual machine. There is no problem for user, even though the EXXi host where this virtual machine is running is down. Okay, then also user cannot feel this. That is feature of fault tolerance. And now if you see this primary VM and summary page, if you scroll down, then previously this fault tolerance was starting. Now status is protected and secondary virtual machine location is exxi102.rjpvmr.com. So here this is secondary virtual machine and here we have primary virtual machine in this EXXI host. Okay, and third EXXI host powered on. This is normal one. Another EXXI host is available within our cluster. Okay, so this is how we can test fault tolerance. And for fault tolerance there are some other options. So if you select this virtual machine, click on action fault tolerance. So here if we want to turn off fault tolerance, suppose this we do not want fault tolerance for this virtual machine, so then we can turn off this fault tolerance so that secondary VM will be off, that will be removed uh, automatically, or we can suspend fault tolerance temporarily, or we can migrate secondary VM which is running in this EXXI host to another EXXI host, that we can migrate. All these when user is accessing this virtual machine, user cannot feel what is going on. If we turn off fault tolerance and suspend fault tolerance, then that secondary virtual machine will be off or removed, but primary this virtual machine is normally how user is accessing, it will continue to access. Okay, if we use test failover, so then even though these all EXXI hosts are running, it will check whether FT is working or not. So for that testing purpose, we can use test failover, this option, so that it will that primary VM is running in one EXXI host, secondary virtual machine is running in another EXXI host. The secondary VM becomes primary and that primary VMs become secondary. So like that we can test this failover. Okay, and test restart secondary. So if we select this option, then it will restart secondary virtual machine once again. Okay, so these are all different options available with respect to FT. So we can test these options later. Whenever you are free, you can also test this. So this is how we can configure FT. Okay, just to show you now, if I select, if I don't want FT, so if I want to turn off fault tolerance, I simply click this turn off fault tolerance. Turning off fault tolerance will remove fault tolerance protection from this virtual machine and delete all historical fault tolerance data. So it is asking, do you want to turn off fault tolerance? If we say yes, then immediately you can see that primary that is not showing here, primary word. So this is like normal virtual machine without any fault tolerance. So now if you see, scroll down, and so first observation is observe here that fault tolerance related, where it is showing protected. After some time you can see that will be removed. Okay, so now that now after refreshing this page, you can see that fault tolerance related information, it is not showing here, and this icon that protected by fault tolerance, that icon also not visible here, and there is no secondary the secondary VM disabled. After some time it will be removed automatically, it will be removed. Okay, so recent task turn off fault tolerance is still going on 40%. Once this is 100%, then the secondary VM also will be removed. So now you can see it is removed automatically from this EXXI 102 host. Okay, turn off fault tolerance completed. Okay, So in recent task you can observe that. So now there is no primary secondary VM, only this virtual machine without fault tolerance. It is running, and this is running in ESXi 101 host. Okay, so like this we can test FT. Hope you enjoy this demo on fault tolerance. Thanks for watching this video.